Hello, today in this video we are going to learn about the Embabel framework using which we can create the AI agents for the JVM. Now when it comes to Embabel, it is an open source framework created by the Rod Johnson, who is also the creator of Spring framework. So it is primarily written in Kotlin and it is built on top of Spring AI and Spring framework. Before jumping into the framework's fundamentals, let's quickly understand the difference between AI agents and LLMs. Prior to AI agents, we were making use of LLMs, wherein we used to provide the text input, LLMs used to analyze the same, and they generates the text output. A simple example for this will be the chatbot apps, wherein we used to provide our input query in text form. Chatbots used to analyze the same, and they used to provide the resolution in the text-based format. So when it comes to LLMs, one of the problem is LLMs can't interact with the real world. For example, let's say we have to book a flight. Using LLMs, we can't do that. That is where the AI agents comes into the picture. So AI agents are capable of performing the actions into the real world. Behind the scenes, AI agents can make use of LLMs plus tools. Tools are something that actually interacts with the real world. So that was bit about the difference between AI agents and LLMs. Now coming back to Embabel, let's quickly go through some of the core concepts related to the framework. So first one is the agent that we are going to build, using which we will try to achieve a desired goal. So consider an example of flight booking system, wherein we will create a flight booking agent which will book the flight tickets for the users. Action is the step that the agent can take. So there can be many actions that the agent needs to take before our end goal can be achieved. One of the example would be checking the flight availability. So based on the filters that user has added, it will try to search for the flight. So this can be one of the actions. Next one is the goal. This is nothing but the end goal that we are trying to achieve. In our case, the end goal is booking the flights for the users. Next one is the conditions. These are the nothing but the checks that the agent can make use of to decide whether particular action should be taken or not. Then comes the domain model. These are the POJOs that we will use throughout the process. Then we have the plan. These are nothing but the sequence of steps that the agent has to take before our end goal can be achieved. Then comes the Blackboard. You can think of Blackboard as a shared memory wherein the entire state will be maintained. Now in case of flight booking system, the agent might have to take the n number of steps, and throughout this process agent might need to store certain information. That is where the concept of Blackboard comes into the picture. Then we have the tools. Using tools, we can take the desired actions, like let's say we have to interact with the REST APIs or we have to interact with the database. That is where the concept of tools comes into the picture. Now I would like to focus you on one important thing, which is the plan. As I mentioned earlier, a plan is a sequence of steps that the agent needs to take before our goal can be achieved. So when it comes to Embabel, it makes use of the GOAP Planner. So GOAP stands for Goal Oriented Action Planning. It is nothing but the best sequence of steps that the agent needs to take so that our desired end goal can be achieved. So when it comes to GOAP algorithm, it works by focusing mainly on four things. First one is the goal, which is nothing but the desired outcome that we are trying to achieve. Then comes the world state, which is nothing but the what information currently we have. Then comes the available actions. This is nothing but the actions that the agent needs to take. And then comes the action effect. So whenever some action will be executed by agent, there will be some effect. That is where the action effects comes into the picture. So let's try to understand this goal oriented action planning with the help of GPS system. Let's say we have to go from source A to destination B. So what we usually do is, first we set our destination, which is the end goal. Then based on this, GPS start analyzing the current conditions, like it will start evaluating our current location, it will evaluate the current traffic, current weather, date, time and so on. This is nothing but the world state, the information that we have currently. Then based on this, the GPS system plans the initial route, which is the first plan that the GPS system has created for us. Now as soon as we start driving, which is nothing but we are executing some action, and let's say certain unexpected things encounter, let's say we encounter the road closure, that is where the replanning comes into the picture. GPS system tries to find the best alternative route for us so that we can reach our destination, and based on the updated route we again start our journey, and finally we arrive at our destination, which is nothing but the goal achievement. So this is what goal oriented action planning does. So as soon as certain unexpected conditions are encountered, it will try to reevaluate the plan and see what are the next best possible actions that the agent can take to achieve our desired goal. So this is nothing but the OODA loop, which stands for observe, orient, decide and act, wherein the agent needs to continuously evaluate what is the current state, what are the next best possible action that we can take, or is there a need for replanning, and what will be the effect when we will execute certain actions. Now let's understand the first Embabel agent that we will create. So the name of the agent is meeting summarizer agent. So what it does is it accepts the meeting transcript from the user, it analyzes the transcript and gives back the key points that were discussed during the meeting and also the action items that needs to be completed. When it comes to project structure, the name of our application is Embabel Shell Demo Meeting Summarizer Agent, within which we have the different package. First one is for the agent. This is where we will create our Embabel agent. Then we have the configuration, wherein we have configured the Google Gemini model. Then comes the DTO. So when it comes to the summarizing meeting, we will need certain sets of DTO. That is where the DTO package comes into the picture. Then we have the Spring Boot main class. Then we have the application.yml, wherein we have configured few basic things. Then we have the pom.xml containing the required project configurations. So now let's jump into the IntelliJ. We will start with the pom.xml. Here you will see we are going to create the Spring Boot based application, and the version of the Spring Boot is 3.5.7. Coming to the properties, we are making use of Java version 21, and the Embabel version that we are making use of is 0.2.0 snapshot, which is the latest version while recording this video. And if you are looking for the stable version, it is the 0.1.4. Now coming to the dependencies part, first we have added the dependency related to the Embabel, which is Embabel agent starter shell. So our application is going to be the shell based application, wherein we will interact with our agent via the shell. Now it is built on top of the Spring shell, and it is also bringing the other Spring dependencies that are required for our project. Then we have added the Spring Boot starter actuator dependency, which is the optional. We'll come to this part while we will configure the Google Gemini model. Then we have added the Embabel repositories, wherein it will bring the snapshot or the release related dependencies for the Embabel. That is where we have configured this. Now coming to this particular dependency, Embabel agent starter shell, behind the scenes it is bringing the other dependencies, Spring based dependencies that are required for our application. So if we go to the dependency analyzer and if we will search for Spring AI, here you will see Spring AI is also there, and it is coming from this particular dependencies Embabel agent starter shell that we have added inside our project. And if we see since we are creating the shell based application, behind the scenes it will be built on top of Spring shell. So here you will see we have the Spring shell starter, also it is coming from the Embabel agent starter shell. So this was regarding the pom.xml. Coming to the application YML, here we have defined the basic configuration like the name of our project, the logging level, and then comes the default LLM. So you can use any LLM when it comes to Embabel, but in our case we have configured the default LLM as Google Gemini 2.0 Flash Experimental. Now coming to the application main, So this is the Spring Boot main class, wherein apart from Spring Boot application annotation, we have added one annotation which is enable agents, which is nothing but it will enable the Embabel framework. Also, whatever agents that we will create inside our application, it will scan for those agents on the class path and register them. And when it comes to this annotation, here you will see we have defined one configuration which is logging theme for the logging themes dot star var. So when it comes to logging, it will try to log the information based on the Star Wars theme. We will see this while we will check the agent's output. Now before we jump into the agent part, I would like to showcase you the configuration that we have done for the Google Gemini model. So just a quick note, if you are working with the OpenAI or Anthropic, you don't need this class. Since we are making use of the Google Gemini free model, that is why we have configured certain things so that we can use the Google Gemini free models that are available. So here we have created one configuration class which is extending the OpenAI compatible model factory. Now when it comes to Google Gemini, they offer certain set of APIs that are compatible with the OpenAI. So here you will see we have defined the path which is OpenAI chat completions, and we are interacting with the Google Gemini model. That is where we have configured a domain, and in order to work with the Gemini models we will need the API key, and it is coming from the environment variable which is Google underscore Gemini underscore API key. Now earlier I mentioned that we have added the Spring Boot actuator dependency. So this was required at this stage because we need the instance of observation registry which is required by this particular class. So here you will see inside the, while calling the superclass constructor, observation registry is required. If we will remove the Spring Boot actuator dependency, then this particular configuration will fail and our application won't start. Now since we will be working with the Gemini model, here we have configured the Gemini LLM. We have given the name as Gemini 2.0 Flash Experimental, and inside this we have provided the name of the model. We have configured the pricing for this model. Since this is the free model, we have kept the pricing as 0. We have configured the name of the provider, which can be anything, and then we have configured the knowledge cutoff date. For the demo purposes, I have kept it as 2025 1st January. So again, this configuration is only required if you are working with the models that are OpenAI compatible. So since we are working with the free model, this configuration is required. And if you are working with OpenAI or Anthropic, you can directly configure the environment variables wherein you will specify your OpenAI or Anthropic key. In that case, this particular class will not be required. Now coming to our meeting summarizer agent, this is how it looks. At the very top, we have defined the annotation @agent, wherein we are giving the name to the agent, which is meeting summarizer agent. Also, we have defined certain metadata like what this agent does and what is the version of this agent. Now, as I mentioned earlier, meeting summarizer agent will analyze the transcript and return the meeting summary as output, which will contain the key points as well as the action item that needs to be completed. So what is our end goal? We need to summarize our meeting. That is where we have created this method create summary, and we have annotated this method with the achieves goal, what agent needs to achieve. So summarize a meeting transcript into the clear key points and action items. Then in order to create the summary, we need the key points and the action item. That is where we have defined the two actions, one for finding the key points and one for finding the action items. So once both these details are available, it will go to this particular method. Here you will see the output of these method, which is key points and action item, is coming as an input to this method, and finally we will get the meeting summary. So first we will go through these simple Java records, then we will understand each of these methods in detail. First Java record is the meeting summary, which is nothing but the final output, wherein we will have the key points that were discussed in the meeting, which will be list, and also the list of action items. Now this method needs the key points and action item as an input. So these are nothing but the outputs that are produced by these two actions. So find key points will return the key points, list of key points, and find action items will return the action item, which is nothing but the list of action items. So these are the three different DTOs that we have defined inside our application. So first one is the key points, action items, and the meeting summary. Now there is one more DTO, which is the user input, which is coming from the Embabel framework only. So since we are developing the shell based application, whenever we submit the input, that will be mapped to this particular DTO, which is the user input DTO. This is a very simple class containing the content field and the timestamp. Whatever input we will submit will be stored inside content, and when it was submitted, it will be stored inside the timestamp. Now let's understand this in very detail, how actually this particular agent will work. So whenever we will submit the input via the shell, what it does is Embabel tries to find the agent that can accomplish our goal. In our case, this Embabel will come to this particular agent. What it does is it tries to find what end goal we are trying to achieve. In this case, we need to summarize a meeting transcript. So it will see what all inputs it needs to achieve our desired goal. In this case, the key inputs and the action items are needed. So first what it will does is it tries to execute both these actions. Once these actions are executed, then this particular method will be executed and our end goal will be achieved. Now coming to this particular action, here you will see as an input we will be receiving the meeting transcript. Now we need to find the key points from the meeting transcript. That is where the LLMs comes into the picture. And in order to interact with the LLM, we need the object of operation context, which is provided by the Embabel. So here you will see we are making use of operation context, then we are calling the AI method, and we are making use of the default LLM, which is the Google Gemini model that we have configured. And then we are simply telling the LLM to provide us the response in this particular Java format. So in our case, we will need the response in this key points object. That is where you will see we have specified the object here, and also we have provided the prompt to the LLM here, like read the following meeting transcript and summarize them into the clear and concise bullet points. So it will find the key points. Once the output is available, it will return the output in this format, key points. Similarly, for finding the action item, the overall logic will remain the same. We will make use of operation context, and in order to interact with the AI, we will call the AI. The model that we will be using is the Google Gemini model, and then we are specified the prompt that we need to find the action items, and we need the output in this particular format, which is the action items. So this is a very simple code. So once we have both the key points and action items available, then this particular method will be executed, create summary. And since we have these two objects as an input, we are simply creating the meeting summary and we are returning it. So one thing you will notice is inside the action we are making use of the AI or LLM. Similarly, for finding the action items we are making use of LLM, but here in this case we are not making use of LLM. All we are doing is once we have achieved all the fields that we need for the meeting summary, we are simply returning the meeting summary as the output. Now we will see these steps, how they are executed in sequence very shortly. Let's try to run this application first. So I am starting the application. Since we have configured the Star Wars themes, you will see the logging in that particular format. Like here you will see it is saying feel the force, and similarly here it is saying you must unlearn what you have learned. So the logging format is based on Star Wars. Here you will see when the application is started, we will be interacting with the agent via shell. So this is the Embabel shell, and in order to execute our action, we need to type the execute command, wherein we will specify our input. So here I have provided one meeting summary. As soon as I will hit the enter, our agent will start processing this request and we will see the meeting summary as the output. So when we submit our request, the Google Gemini model will try to find the key points, action items, and give us the final output. So here you will see the we have received the final output, where inside which we have the list of key points that were discussed during the meeting and what were the action items. And here you will see certain basic info, like the model that was used was Google Gemini 2.0 Flash experimental. Total 2 AI calls were made, first one to find the key points, another one to find the action items, and how many tokens were used and what was the total cost. Since we have not configured the cost, it is showing it as 0.0. Now let's try to understand what actually happened behind the scenes when we submitted our input request. So for this, so here you will see when we submitted our input request using execute command, what it does is it tries to find the agent that will process our request. So here it will say choosing the agent based on user input. Here it is saying it has 95% confidence that the particular agent will process this request, and the name of the agent is meeting summarizer agent. Now when the request was submitted to the meeting summarizer agent, what it does is initially it only had the user input, that is the meeting transcript that the user has submitted. So here you will see the meeting transcript mapped to the user input, it is showing as true. Rest of the things are false. These are the nothing but the methods or the objects that we have throughout our application, like create summary, find action item, and these are the outputs that will be produced by them, like action items, key point, and meeting summary. All these are marked as false because when we submitted the request at that point, that this information was not available, only the meeting transcript was available, due to which it is showing it as true. Then it formulated the plan in order to create the meeting summary. These are the set of actions that needs to be executed in sequence. First one will be the find action items, then it will be find key points, and finally create summary will be executed. Initially when the find action item method was executed, at that point action items were produced. So here you will see find action item method and the action items are marked as true because once that method was executed we had that information, and also the user input is marked as true. Rest of the things are still false. Now the next action that it needs to take is finding the key points. So here you will see it has drafted the plan which is finding the key points, then it will execute the summary. So as soon as the finding key points was executed, the state changes. Now it has the user input, it has the action items, it has the key points, and also these two methods were executed. Now since it has all the information available, all need to do is it needs to execute the create summary. So as soon as the create summary was executed, the entire thing is marked as true. For example, final step was executing the create summary, it is also marked as true, and we also have the meeting summary which was returned to the user. So here you will see finally the meeting summary was written. So earlier we discussed about the Blackboard, which is nothing but the shared memory used by agent throughout the process wherein the state will be maintained. So here you will see the Blackboard has been created, within which the user input is present and also the intermediate output that were produced by agent like meeting summary or key points object are also present here. And once the final output was produced, it is present here, which is the meeting summary. This was all regarding the meeting summarizer agent, or how we can create an agent using Embabel. One more important thing, since it is a shell based application, we can execute certain commands. So if we have to see what all set of possible commands we have, we can type help. So these are the built-in Spring shell commands, and these are the commands that are specific to the Embabel. For example, we made use of the execute command, right? This is where the execute command is mentioned. We can specify the execute keyword, or we can specify the X letter and specify our input. And if we have to see what all agents we have, so we can type the agents command and press enter. Here you will see the agent information is present, meeting summarizer agent. And then if we have to see the Blackboard, we can type the Blackboard or the BB and press enter. So if we type Blackboard and press enter, we will see the Blackboard of the agent that we have seen just now. Similarly, if we have to execute any other command, we can see, let's say, what all models that are configured inside this application. We can type the keyword models and press enter. In our case, we have only configured the one model, which is Google Gemini 2.0 Flash Experimental, which is mentioned here. Yeah, so that was all regarding the Embabel shell-based demo. We have also written the detailed blog on it, which you can go through if you are interested. Also, the example that we discussed during this demo is uploaded on GitHub, so you can go through the same and check out and try executing the same. Yeah, so that was all from my end. I hope you found it useful. Thank you.